I'm gonna just get right to it, man. Those that let's say been to the Dominican Republic many times and let's say dealt with Dominican women, I honestly thought there was nothing that could top Dominican women when it comes to like begging. Like, a lot of us been to different countries in Latin America and Asia, you know, but most of us agreed that Dominican women was just even the men beg in the DR. Like DR was just the begging capital of the world. That was the consensus. You know, boy oh boy oh boy. Some of these, I don't want to label the whole continent, but the countries I've been to so far, with the exception of like South Africa and like Ethiopia, man, these other East African countries, man, they have taken the crown when it comes to begging, to the crown. I mean, let me start with we got Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda. Like it's just the begging is just insane. But I would say definitely Kenya and Uganda too. You know, and the begging is a little, I guess it's a little different from DR. Usually like in Dominican Republic, for example, it always starts with this. It's like, you know, hola, ¿cómo estás? Or hey, how are you? And you'll say, I'm fine. And then you'll ask them, how are you? And they'll say, mal, muy mal, or very bad. So as soon as a message start off like that, you're like, oh shit, this bitch needs something. She about to ask me for something. Um, Other ways, I've seen like, let's say in a DR or Latin chicks, they ask for money. Um, they'll send pictures or videos of somebody in the hospital, things of that nature. Maybe they might start off by sending you some sexy pictures or something like that. Um, so a lot of times it's not correct, but it's coming. Now with these African chicks, shout out to Jay Everything. These African chicks, man, some of these chicks they won't even say hello. What I mean? They'll send statements like send me this, or it's my birthday, send me that. Like they just damn near out just blunt as hell with the begging, you know, and and they beg more frequent too, you know. It could be like it could be like they need $10 one day for they need some money for data one day. The few days later they want you to can you send me some can you order me some takeout or can you order me some delivery? And then most African chicks, it's always a situation. Oh, I need my rent paid, or I don't have enough money to cover my rent. I'm about to get kicked out, you know. And you kind of like, damn. So you like, all right, you knew if you knew you needed money for rent, then why did you ask for money for everything else but your rent? So they try to nickel and dime, and a lot of times too is like they hard headed. Like at least with a lot of the Dominican chicks, like once you tell them like, if you help them out, you say this, I'm gonna do this one time, or don't ask me again. Whatever you say to just kind of like make it clear, like like don't ask me again. For the most of the time, they're not gonna like test you or ask again. They'll leave it alone. or they'll just stop fuck talking to you. You know what I mean? But you can tell all these African chicks like, man, I'm not going. This is one time. This is a one time thing. Like don't ask me again. And like they'll still ask you over some time. But like this is really really an emergency. I don't have nowhere else to go to, and it's sad. It's sad. Let me read a couple of these comments real quick. Jay Everything said, "Welcome home, brother. That will be five. We say 5 CD, please." He said, Tamara says, "If you respond with a greeting, it's basically you're giving them permission to hustle you." He said, "I hate the hospital pictures." GS the third said, "Dang man, they Jodeci singing out there, baby they begging, baby they begging, baby they begging." Hell yeah. LOM said, "I'm not putting up with that." Tamara said, "Remember they survived without you before you meant that, so they'll survive after you leave them." Because Kaya Republic said, "I guess Austin was right about the begging." Yeah, they begging, and it's like I'm gonna keep it real. Like there's a lot of elements of Matrix everywhere, Africa included. You know what I mean? I'm seeing it. Um, Shout out to one of the homies. He mentioned that a lot of the Africans, even though you'll see some westernized stuff when it comes to begging and expectations. Um, travel, try raw. He was like a lot of African chicks. They copycats. So they're not as hardcore as like Matrix women when it comes to things, but they try to copy a lot of the sprinkle methodology. So another thing with the begging, and I would even say like the mentality is that a lot of Latin chicks, most of Latin chicks, like they live with family, whether they parents or somebody, they live with family, and they're not really their homes or shacks. What I mean, there's no rent. Like they own the spot where they live at. So if they need anything for the house, it's mostly like utilities or something like that. And you don't really see a lot of these Latin chicks, and I'm just using DR as an example. You don't really see a lot of them chicks living on their own, moving out, renting a room, or got a roommate or something like that. Like they living with family for the most part, unless they get a husband or something like that. But these African women, especially in Kenya, Uganda, a little bit in TZ, a lot of these chicks, don't want to live with their parents. So they move. They try to, they find a cheap room or a cheap apartment where they can rent, and it's just like, the economy is already what it is. Y'all put more on yourself to like live on your own, and they really can't afford it. They really can't afford it. So you know that mentality, it, it bothers me a little bit because that is something that we see in Western cultures, like the desire to not be at home because you don't want to be under some type of structure living with your parents. And that's what I with these modern women in a lot of these African countries. Like they want to live alone. So if any of you guys want some tips on vetting and things to like pay attention to with African women, you know, pay close attention to women that live with their parents versus women that don't live at home. You know, they want that sense of freedom for a reason. They want it for a reason, and a lot of times is they the ones that live on their own, they are a little bit more loose than the ones that live with their family. So man, I'm at the point now where it was just like my WhatsApp was just getting so overwhelming because it was just like women after women, like just ask, and they ask for the same things. Now the Latin chicks ask for the same things too, but the two common things like these chicks beg for is, one is money and the other is phone. It just amazes me how that you're about to go to this country, you know, and women just be like, can you give me a phone? And you like, why? Like why? What is it about American phones? Like what's up with getting a phone here? Most of our damn phones is not even made in the US anyway. Like, you know, so that shit just gets that shit gets annoying, man. Can you get me a phone? Can you send me some money? It's overwhelming. Now, my experience in like DR, for example, it was usually the begging was coming from, chicks, pay for play chicks. So I mean, a lot of times, we tried to be cool and try to make friends with the hookers, you know, but they're gonna eventually ask for some money. You know what I mean? If you keep in the context. So just one of my homies said, like, I don't even keep in touch or converse with pay for play chicks because they're gonna eventually ask for money. Now Dominican chicks, I'm using DR as an example, but like Dominican chicks that wasn't like pay for play girls, I didn't really see as much begging. You know what I mean? I didn't really see as much begging. Now, at least not right away. You know what I mean? They was a little bit more patient. So, a lot of the what we would call non-pros in Africa, they act like the prostitute. They act like how pros be in Latin America. So I'm gonna draw two parallels too. Now, and this is another thing about Africa too that I kind of don't like to bring up because I don't like to Africa have these stereotypes, but I'm gonna be honest with you. So I want to make a distinction between Latin America and Africa on two things. So the first distinction is that in Latin America, when it comes to like, let me just be direct. When it comes to like HIV, right? Latin America, outside exception Brazil, Latin America, you don't really associate HIV with Latin America unless you're talking about prostitutes for the most part, right? You know what I mean? So, whether that's fair or not fair, that's another conversation. But as far as just the stigma, right? So when it comes to prostitutes in Latin America, though that's who you typically worry about when it comes to HIV or gold diggers or what I mean, things like that. But typically people don't really worry about HIV with non-pros or regular girls or even the begging to a certain extent with regular girls, because regular girls typically if they don't have a job, what I mean, they're financially supported by their family. Now, when it comes to Africa, you it's different because those things that you worry about with pros in Latin America, you got to worry about them with regular girls. You know what I mean? So whether it's like you, HIV, you got to worry about that with non-pros, and then the begging and gold diggers, you got to worry about that with non-pros too. Even if they do have even if they are working. So in a lot of ways, it's like worse. It's like, damn, you know, the non pros in Latin America are less risky, or is a lesser risk than messing with non pros in Africa. You know, so you got that. So I'm pro. I'm pro Africa. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things I love about it. There's a lot of countries that needs to be explored. Um, there, it's definitely a lot more submissive women in Africa. You know, I will always point out pros and cons. I don't see women in Latin America as being submissive. They're just nice. There are more submissive slash subservient women in Africa for sure. And then also Africa does have the body types and things of that nature. And dating, casual dating is going to be more abundant in Africa because, you know, if you're a black man, you know what I mean, it's going to be easier to obtain women that look like you for the most part, you know what I mean? So, but you know, there's a lot of growing pains with dealing with Africa too. You know, there's a lot of growing pains, and begging is one of them. Let me see who I got in the chat real quick. Let's see. Black guy, I'm sorry, Black Goku Zero. He said, I noticed that too. LOM said, thanks for informing us on their chicanery. Tim said, the begging starts in the airport in Nigeria, and they'll make sure you go through your stuff to get it. I basically told them, fuck off from the jump. LOM said, that mentality is disgusting. Ash L, what up, man? LOM said, rebellious by choice. Tim said, I guess that canceled my Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya trip. I hate excessive begging. No, I mean, the reward is the reward is worth it. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I'm going back to each of those countries. But, you know, I know I have to approach it differently. Like you gotta, especially if you meet chicks off these dating sites, you pretty much gotta put a disclaimer, like the first message, like if you intend on ever asking me for some money, do not even, you know what I mean, like do not even respond or whatever the case may be. Like you gotta put disclaimers up, because man, and to be honest with you, I blame it on the African men, because you know we didn't create this culture in Africa. All this stuff already existed. And one thing I noticed, just talking to African men and women, you know, a lot of African men go broke spoiling these women. You know, so I mentioned this in another forum. Like, I could give an African chick $100 from you know, let's say from a third world country, let's say Uganda or Kenya. You know, I'll give a chick $100, and I might think that's a lot of money, you know, which it is. But a local guy, he could give her $100 too, and he will do it. The only difference is that when that local guy is giving her $100, he's giving her almost half, probably the majority of his salary. And a lot of African men, or a lot of their culture is, you know, they're fine with that. They're fine with giving a woman, you know, most of their money. Like that's how a lot of them live. Like they'll work, they'll buy food to eat, um, especially if they like especially if they like a moto taxi or something like that. They'll have fuel for their car. They'll eat, and they'll give women most of their money. That is the way of life of. I don't want to generalize, but that's the way of life of, at least what I've seen it thus far in East Africa. Probably all of Africa is like that. Men give women most of their money, even though they don't make a lot of money. Women, when African women say African men, um, know how to take care of them. It's not necessarily about the amount of money these men give their women. It's the fact that these men give women the majority of their money. You know, and a lot of times these women they're using this money, to get their hair done, or whatever needs the average woman wants. That's what they're using the money for. But just imagine. I think the average salary now is like 40,000. Median salary might be about 40, 50, 60,000 a year. Imagine giving a woman most of your money outside of your bills. Because to be honest with you, the way that women beg and the demands they want, you damn near got to give them most of your money to meet their needs. Like that's the mentality um in Africa, and that is what the expectation I'm seeing now in Western societies. Like you know what I mean? Oh my God, imagine if you make $50,000 a year and almost $25,000 of your money is being spent on the chick. Imagine that. That's like $2,000 a month. So imagine $2,000 a month, whether you helping her, because $2,000 you can pay for a chick rent in the U.S. You can pay for her rent. You can pay for her to get her hair done, eating out and shit like that. And you probably could afford to do it if you don't do nothing else with your life. So that that in itself just blows me. And now I see why a lot of the old heads, shout out to Taylor Made and the other guy, a lot of the old heads, man, they in Asia, bro. Old niggas, and I'm gonna be creep, I'm gonna be an old nigga too, but old niggas, they they a step ahead because they see certain things, and now that they're living for peace of mind. I think Taylor Made even said, like, with the Thai chicks, he said they do not beg as much. The need is there. We know the need is there, but he said they do not beg as much. He said they are the most peaceful women to be with. So these old heads on to something, man. When it comes to Asia, they are on to something, man. I just like, obviously I like the physique of a black woman, but man, our black women, man, worldwide, man, they are you know, I can't speak on white women because I don't know them. I've heard about Russian women being gold diggers, so I don't want to make it a race thing, but our black women worldwide, man, beg, beg, beg. I don't know if because they missed out due to the white woman always having things and black people always being poor, so black women feel like they want to catch up. They feel like that we've been missing out all these centuries. Now is our time to be spoiled and pampered. I don't know why it's such a desire um to be spoiled and pampered and things like that, like the end of the world is tomorrow or something. It's it got to be talked about. It got to be talked about because this is a worldwide thing now. This is a worldwide thing now. You know, we always talk about you could go on a date with a white woman, and a lot of times she might not even want to get nothing to eat. She might just get some, something to drink and be good. You know, they don't try to be greedy or anything like that. You know, obviously they play a different game, but when it just comes to just being greedy, like you just don't see it with a lot of non-black women. You know, I would say 90% of the time, if I met a chick, you know, I'm gonna use Africa for it. I'm gonna use Africa. These women, they act like this is the last time they're gonna see you. Whether it's your intention is not to fuck with them again, or their intention is not to fuck with you again. Either way, they want to get everything they can before you leave. Like it's just like a pattern. It's just kind of like you about to leave. They might want you to go to they might want to go to the mall, go to the grocery store, or you know say say they want this or want that. Like they basically try to. I had to tell the chick like, yo, you like you being greedy, and I see this in the Matrix too. I've been on dates with women in the Matrix. Like we go to a nice restaurant, they want to get everything off the goddamn menu. Like it's the last time they're gonna be at this restaurant. Like or they're never gonna have this experience again. They want to get everything out at the last minute. Like that shit is just crazy. You know, like spread. Can y'all spread the begging out? Can you spread it out over a period of time? Like they try to just get everything in one whop. Like it, like it's gonna be the last thing. Let me catch up on some of these comments real quick. Tim Howard mentioned, but that non-pay for play checks be doing the same thing too, but they wait a bit. The countries I was at recently, well, I would say, yeah, pretty much between Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and Rwanda. Most recently, December, I was in. I spent most of my time in South Africa in December. Yeah, South African women, they make more money there. You know what I mean? And they have more women are employed, so you really won't see as much begging in South Africa. I mean, if a chick don't got a job, then that's kind of expected. But yeah, you don't see that in South Africa or like in Brazil. You won't. I didn't experience in Brazil either. So those are more what I call emerging economies. Yes, feminism is high in South Africa and in Brazil, but you won't get the begging. And for whatever reason, casual sex culture is or no strings attached culture is big in Brazil and South Africa. So there's a correlation between um there's some correlation between casual sex, feminism, and women having jobs. Because I used to try to compare South Africa or say South Africa and Colombia is like a tie, but really it's more like South Africa and Brazil. It's like they have so many similarities, but that's a whole other conversation. Let's see. Kiskaya Republic, so Africa at times do make you look at Latin America in a different light and is close to the USA. Yeah. Buck Travel said Latin America is best bang for your buck. Zero to Hero to African women are looking for blessers. Tim always said they got some simps in Africa. Yeah. They don't even probably know they simps, man. Salute the Rona Travelers, man. Salute, bro. Tim always said, shake my head, embarrassing. I don't feel sorry for those simps. Rona said, "See, you said that one chick was hyping up the live from the interview that day. Those African women have been westernized because of the entertainment industry. That's true. That's true. That's true." He said, "I hope they don't ruin Asia, man." Yeah, man. I mean, a lot of things too, man. And I take a lot of deep thought into this. A lot of things too, man. It's the men in those societies too. As much as we have been, um, I don't want to say conditioned. As much as the stereotype has been like Latin men are these machismo men, you would have thought that they run and control their women, whatever this machismo mean. But I think machismo refers to something else. I think that just refers to a man thinking that he can, a man, thinking that he can cheat and a woman accept it. But they don't dominate their women in Latin culture like that, as a whole, opposed to like the men that you'll see in, like, let's say Asian countries, for example, like that. So um we can't put everything on simps. The local men have something to do with how their women are as well. um Colombian men, they trick off too. I mean, the ones, especially the ones that got that drug money, they simp, trick, they do all that. African men do it too. Look at the Nigerians. They're notorious for they're notorious for spending money. You know, women love Nigerians in a lot of these countries. So the local men have something to do with that as well. Is that one thing I learned traveling overseas? If you don't have income living in those countries, you will literally starve. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Please hit the like button. Appreciate it, fellas. Yes, please hit the like button. Rhoda said, "You sound frustrated, man. Yeah, man. It was like the end of the month. What was it? April 30th. I felt like every woman was facing eviction on my in my damn. I'm like, God damn. One chick, she sent me pictures of some men in her apartment looking like they was kicking her out, and I'm just like, man, you was just shaking your ass on TikTok yesterday, and now you talking about you gotta get kicked. You about to get kicked out. Like, you know, so somebody priorities is real fucked up." He said, "Indeed, from black women in Western countries and around the world, black women do beg and are aggressive with it." Yeah, they are aggressive with it. Maybe that's why some brothers date women of other races. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true. Um, you know, uh, I got a family member. He always said like he loved black women, man, but he was just like, the reason why he dated a white woman because he didn't feel the pressure of like to have money, you know. And he would say that he would want to have a lot of money before he dealt with a black woman, you know. And so that was a sentiment that I heard before, you know. But it could be a lot of other reasons. But guys want to feel like they could come as they are and be accepted. He said they just won't hear from me afterwards. Yeah, you gotta spread the begging out, man. Spread it out. Don't always try to go for the home run. Don't try to always go for the home run. You know. He said, let me see. Buck Travel said African men lead with their wallets. Why you think the dowry concept comes from? It's a good point. Good point. Let's see. Kiskaya said they're Western because of English language. I agree. He said, and the Christian-based society for most part, like Black America. Yes, that's a good point. I was just talking about this earlier. That's a good point. Shout out to Rwanda president because somebody had brought this to my attention a few years ago. The Rwanda president, he had closed down like um, hundreds of thousands of churches because he was like, man, all these churches is why are all these churches popping up, and the Westernized church or the Anglo-based churches, they they are part of the system that spreads these Westernized, uh, these Westernized things. So I don't want to get too deep into that, but you touched on something when it came to that. Ronan said, brother, the internet has Westernized simple culture in Africa because their women look up to Black American women. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Man, what up? Shout out to the homie, man. Buffer man, appreciate the $2 super chat. He said, you don't want to be in Africa anymore. No, that's not the case. That's not the case. I have to recalibrate my approach to Africa now that I see like kind of what it is when it comes to some countries. I don't want to say Africa because I only been to 6 countries so far, and I do want to hit up West Africa, excluding Ghana and Nigeria. So for what guys were saying, West African culture is going to be a little bit more different because the men are more masculine, in which makes the women more feminine. So when you have, I hate to say this, man, but when you have men from societies where there's not a lot where they're not highly masculine. And how I define masculine, I look at it from a physical aspect too, being tall, big, um, deep voice, aggressive. Aggressive is one of the key things. Um, West African by far, is a more aggressive culture. And so just like Brazil, where you have aggressive men, you have more feminine women. So that's something that I am going to explore next year is West Africa. But yeah, no, Africa is still up, still has my interest. I do want to I do want to live in Africa at some point. I'm just still trying to figure out which country or countries um would suit me the best. Well, appreciate the super chat, bro. Tim said, those men said these Nigerian women are gold. Yeah. Nigerian women are gold diggers, from what I heard. You can see that too. He said, how those women living a lavish lifestyle still struggling at the same time. You see it here. They live day by day. Most women want to live day by day until they hit the wall, which for them, the wall is what, 40, 45. So yeah, yeah, that's a whole nother conversation, man. The mentality of a lot of these modern women, man, is just it's not about it's definitely not about community building. Um, you know, the black family, we're no more two-parent household philosophy. It's all about now we're trending towards co-parenting. That's the new family structure is co-parenting, no two-family household, no men, basically no keep no men in a household. Is no men in a household. That's basically where we at. Some women are cool with a guy staying with them, and as soon as he doesn't comply, get your shit and get out. That's the extent of having a man in a household. Uh, a man that's gonna be like a dog coming home. When she comes home from work, he's at the door wagging his tail and waiting for a treat. That's to an extent. Now that's a whole nother rant. He said black women overall are high maintenance compared to other group of women. They want their hair done, nails done, the whole 9 yards. Yeah. Tim said you became red pill in Africa. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, makes sense. Yeah. But Trevor said, no excuses. Masculinity also means you have power and status. It's not just a physical thing, too. Yeah, it could mean that, too. It could definitely mean that, too. But yeah, man, I appreciate y'all tuning in on today's morning rant. Check y'all out next time, man. Please comment on the stream, man. It helps the algorithm. Peace out.